Tom has wine, beer, and whiskey open tonight.
I literally just opened it and started almost drinking out of the bottle.
Flavor explosion over there.
3, 2, 1.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast. And we are 3 days away from draft day, and we're going to be continuing our mock draft. Joining me, as always, is the tall guy, Mitch. And with us is our draft expert, the guy who was here earlier, the drunk man himself, Thomas Hunter.
All right.
The drunk man. New
Love
nickname.
We say that because Tom is sitting here with a glass of whiskey, a glass of wine, and a bottle of beer. All
Don't try it
opened,
at home, kids.
all unfinished, and he's just working on all of them at the same
Mine's almost done
time.
here. This is not how it dirt up, but this is the hand we were dealt.
We were
so.
pouring out the whiskey to start off the podcast, and Tom's like, let me finish my glass of wine. Wow, Tom just chugged his whole glass of wine right in front of me just now. He has moved off the wine and onto the beer, ladies and gentlemen.
Gotta start moving to the whiskey here soon.
Yeah, let's.
So, what we got here today as far as the whiskey goes, I don't know what all Tom's drinking over there, but I have in front
Fun
of
mixed
me.
drink. Yeah, we're just starting up.
It's a fun mixed drink.
Put them all together
Yeah.
in one glass. Okay, so what we have here today is Bird Dog Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, the small batch. So first off, their label is it's like a really cool looking label. I read something though that the dog that's on here is actually a beagle and not a bird dog.
So the whiskey is called Bird Dog, and the picture of the dog on the bottle is not
It's not a bird dog.
dog.
It's a beagle.
We've
It's
been
like it's a hound.
bamboozled, ladies and
How
gentlemen.
does that
Yeah.
marketing work? They're just like, no, this isn't the one for us.
Yeah.
The name we chose for our company just isn't the
Yeah, I
right
also-
dog for us.
I also read some stuff about how they're secretive about where, because it's a blended whiskey, where the other whiskeys come from. It's whether they're all from Kentucky or not. So, bit of mystery shrouded in this whiskey we got here today.
Well, as always, your boy has 4 ice cubes in his glass. Mitch is rocking 2. Tom, did you get
3.
3?
I was
Met
the
us in the
middleman.
middle.
I was the middleman.
Break in the
Met us in the
Yeah.
middle. But I'm a 4 ice cube kind of guy, as I've said earlier on the pod. And,
Tastes watery.
it tastes good.
Yeah, I like it. No, I like it. It's pretty smooth.
Compared to the other whiskeys we've had, I would like it not as good as the 4 Roses, but better than the TX, if that is where I would put it.
I don't know. Let me drink it for a little bit and bring it back to me later in the pod. I'll tell you what I think.
Let it marinate a little more. First.
Yeah, let it marinate.
I just for those who don't know, earlier pods we finished the whole bottle of 4 Roses. We got a decent dent into the TX whiskey, but we did not go nearly as far into the TX as we did the 4 Roses.
Not yet. Night's
No,
Not
we were-
yet,
we
not
were-
yet for bird dogs. Night's still
That's
young.
a good point.
That
That
is
is
still
young.
young. Tom has a little bit of ways to go before he actually gets to taste the Bird Dog.
It's a marathon. It's a podcast. Just gotta keep it.
It is easier to finish the bottle when there's a third bottle or third person here.
Yeah, I'm a team player. That's why I'm here. A draft expert is nothing compared to a third drinking buddy for these two.
The takes are only going to get hotter here.
Yeah.
But we're just going to pick up right where we left off last podcast, which is the Boston Celtics just picked Precious Achiuwa. And for those of you that didn't join us last podcast, we had an alternating draft going on where Tom was picking all the odd number teams.
There we go.
So he was starting with 1 and then 3 and then 5.
Yep.
And then Mitch was picking all the even number teams, which is 2, 4, 6. So they were alternating back and forth. Neither of them knows who the other is picking. So they both had done a decent amount of research.
Yeah.
And then we're going to just see where we end up. Last podcast, you guys were pretty even, pretty close to each other. At the end of the day, you guys had probably a very similar
I think
lottery.
So. Yeah, for the most part.
We were pretty close on almost every pick. There was a few variations. I know on my mock draft, I was only 2 people off.
I had Toppin at 5 and he went 12. That was the one sort of. And I had a Coro at 6 and he went 10, I think. So it wasn't. Yeah. That's
I
all
feel
right.
like that's going to tell the story of Toppin, though. Toppin is
That's
somewhere
true.
between
Could go
Well,
could go
anywhere.
1.
Well, since
He
the
could
last
go 1.
podcast, we have learned that the Knicks want Toppin now. So we'll
We
see.
have, yes.
So we'll see how much that factors in.
Knicks are very interested in Toppin.
I
Knicks
love that
have
so much. It sounds like a
picked
Knicks
Ace.
thing. I don't know why. They're just like, oh, the biggest name from college. You know what? He's going to New York now. Just can't go wrong.
I hope they don't pick him because I think that he could be good, and he won't be if he goes to the Knicks.
Just another power forward to add to their long lineage of New York Knicks power forwards for the roster.
Real.
All right, so let's get into this. We are on an odd pick. The Orlando Magic are on the clock. They finished 8th in the East with a 33-40 record. They, I believe, won one game in the first round of the playoffs.
It was the first game of the
Yep,
playoffs.
they won the
and,
first game of the playoffs against Milwaukee.
And Twitter went off for like 2 hours. Then they're like, oh, wait.
And
the
then,
Bucks are still good.
and then Giannis was like, hold on now.
Hold my-
I only lose in the second round, not the first round. But they have a interesting starting five with some talent, but they need some help. Markelle Fultz, Evan Fournier, James Ennis, I think was their small forward.
Former Stone, love him.
Was he a former Stone?
He was a former Stone.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
You could mix in some Jonathan Isaac in there if he's healthy. Aaron Gordon, Nikola Vucevic are both studs. Aaron Gordon's been on trade talks a lot. Where do they go at 15, Tom?
So, if I'm the Magic here, I am drooling that Saddiq Bey is still on the board. I think that is an awesome fit for that roster. I think just like classic 3-and-D guy, he definitely can make an impact for them to try and stay in the sad playoff race that is the Eastern Conference. He can try and just keep them on pace there with the Wizards and whoever else is around there. He definitely isn't the flashiest player, but he's making threes. He's probably one of the best 3-and-D guys in this class. He was he's from a great program in Villanova, a strong leader for them. I just think that this is a great fit for them. He could probably take over for James Ennis or Terrence Ross there, the small forward spot. So that's sort of where I had this going. I saw that his comparison was like a Damari Carroll type, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. He's not flashy. He's not gonna bounce around the gym, but he's a solid defender and good shooter. So.
He's a good fit. I agree with you. He's a good fit. I did not have him going to the Magic.
Okay.
But
full disclosure, I had him going 11th to the Spurs when we first did this. So I think this is a great value for the Magic here at 15.
No, I totally agree. I'm a little worried about how many wings the Magic have because Jonathan Isaac is
Out for the year though, probably
as
out,
always.
probably out for the year, and
Yikes.
his problem is availability.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's healthy, he's borderline DPOY kind of candidate. But with him, with Aaron Gordon, with James Ennis, with Al-Farouq Aminu, I'm a little worried about how many wings they have. But he'll come in and he'll probably be the best small forward on the roster, from day one.
And he's probably one of the better shooters on that roster when he gets there too.
I was about to say, they have a lot of defensive wings. You have Al-Farouq Aminu. You have...
He can defend too, honestly.
Well,
he
yeah,
can
and
defend by any
Saddiq Bey
means.
can.
Yeah.
But you have Al-Farouq Aminu. You have Jonathan Isaac. Both can defend anybody,
Yeah.
but can't shoot for shit.
Yes.
And so you bring in a guy who can defend and shoot.
Yes.
That's something that they haven't had. Aaron Gordon can defend, can't really shoot, but he can dunk. But it's one of those things where it's you need somebody who can a true 3-and-D, and they've had the D.
Yes, the
But
guys
they
that
need
you're
the
asking
3,
to shoot,
and so now they got a guy that's 3-and-D.
the guys you're asking to shoot threes are Markelle Fultz, TJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, MCW, James Ennis, and Terrence Ross. You can get that a little higher, I feel from getting Bay in the straps.
Oof.
Yeah, outside Fournier and Ross,
It's
it's
an
just
oof.
it's big ooskies all around. So I think that Saddiq Bey is a good pick there.
I would be
The
ecstatic if he was there for the Magic at 15.
The only thing that bothers me about Saddiq Bey is his awkward shooting form. But I'm sure it doesn't matter. I mean, look at Shawn Marion. He had the worst form in the history of basketball, and he's turned out to be a pretty good basketball player.
And Fultz has turned around too. His shot looks better than it did 2 years ago in the Magic. So
Yeah, and Saddiq Bey's splits are pretty good.
Yeah.
His splits are above average, and
Yeah.
his shooting form might be wonky, but it goes in, and that's all that matters. I am very excited to hear about this next pick. We have the Blazer fan himself
yeah.
picking for the Blazers.
Did I steal your pick here?
So I'm gonna be honest with
I was
you,
gonna
man. I'm
say-
a little upset. I had Saddiq Bey
I
going
saw
to the
some
Blazers.
sneak eyes.
here.
I saw some sneak eyes from the corner there a minute ago. So I was like, oh, this is probably his pick. But you know what? He did the same to me, so I don't feel bad about it at all.
That's fair.
A little bit about the Blazers here. They finished 8th in the West. They went on quite the run in the bubble. Dame went Dame, which was unreal. They did only finish 35 and 39, which is a bit of a bummer. They have 0 cap space, and if the Melo's going to be their power forward, they have a hole at wing. If Melo's going to be their 3, they kind of have a hole at the 4. They need to round out their bench. They need to round out their defense. A lot of needs here, but they also have Dame, which is always going to keep them in the playoff hunt.
So I will say that we could have a little bit of cap space if we decide to waive both Trevor Ariza and Hassan Whiteside. But that would open up $15 million in cap space. But yes, you took my pick here, Tom. It's Saddiq Bey. I was very excited about him coming to the Trailblazers.
I want Patrick Williams to go to the Stones too. Life isn't fair sometimes.
Last pod, Tom has zero regrets for stealing.
I'm not salty if you can't tell, listeners.
All right. I'm between 3 different guys right now, and they're actually the next 3 people I have picked. I'm going to go with Aaron Nesmith.
Okay.
And Tom reacts immediately.
So
I want to talk about it myself, but that's fine too. This all works out.
Okay, so Aaron Nesmith is what I think the best shooter in the entire class.
I agree.
I think, what was it? He shot like 53.
52, I think it was 52.2, but yeah, it's the same thing.
So 52% from 3. And some of it was actually off the dribble. I mean, he was mainly a spot-up guy, but if you're going to be playing for the Trailblazers, like, spot-up three-point shooting, we love to have it. We haven't had a lot of it in the past, and we got rid of all of our guys who couldn't shoot, now Freak Aminu and Mo Harkless, just for shooters. So that's all we want to do now. He kind of fits a spot, that 3-4 that we don't have a lot of young guys for. We do have Nasir Little, who's kind of still developing, but the jury's still out whether he's going to be a real basketball player at this point. I'll be honest, I still want Saddiq Bey.
I saw Patrick Williams.
But Aaron Nesmith, I think, projects to be a kind of a Buddy Hield type guy. I think he can shoot off the dribble a little bit, and shooting is what his main attribute is coming in. I don't know if he's going to be that good of a defender, but he is 6'6" and has some length.
So whose minutes does he take away? Is he take away from Gary Trent, Ariza, like Rodney Hood? Maybe if he comes back, how would you see the fit?
Honestly, we rarely ever play rookies. So we had to play Nasir and like Wenyen Gabriel. Like Wenyen Gabriel technically is a second-year player, but we had to play some young guys last year because we were just so injured.
Okay.
But he probably comes in as a guy that like doesn't play in his first year, maybe goes to the G League a little bit. Weird note about the Blazers that they're one of the only teams in the entire NBA that doesn't have their own G League team.
This is a pick that you stash away for later, and then you just kind of like, the Blazers are a team that you run it back and hope you're healthy because they dealt with more injuries than anybody in the NBA last year, maybe save the Nets or the Warriors, but like they dealt with so many injuries that it was just
Warriors.
like tough to like. It was impressive that they made the playoffs, let alone made it a kind of a series against the Lakers, I guess a little bit, but it was definitely fun that they won a playoff game. Now this is the next pick is the first team that's got to come back and pick again.
Yes.
The T-Wolves, who had won, they picked Anthony Edwards at 1. Tom picked Anthony Edwards for them. They're on the clock again at 17. They've got their wing now. Where are they going, Tom?
So they don't. I mean, I think at this point in the draft, what they would probably do is take the best player available, and to me, that's Tyrese Maxey. I think that, their backup point guard right now is Jordan McLaughlin, who I'm not terribly familiar with. I feel like they could probably use some kind of upgrade or at least some competition for this guy. I think I think Maxey provides that. He had a pretty solid year at Kentucky. He's not a great shooter, but he's a good defender. Great in the pick and roll, which with Cat's always a good thing to have. I think, if they have a lot of DeRozan and Edwards, he probably won't have a whole lot of minutes, but he'll get some chances. And I think they can just sort of, they can afford to try and take a flyer on this guy. I couldn't think of a good comp for him from watching his videos. I don't know if you had one either.
So I did. I got a comp for him that I was kind of excited about. Okay. Which is Fred VanVleet.
Oh, okay. I don't hate that.
So Tyrese Maxey is a 6'3". He's a bit of a combo guard.
Yeah.
He is a shooter. I don't love his form. It's definitely kind of like a push shot sort of thing. But he's a good shooter from deep, and I think that he's one of those guys that thinks he may be a better shooter than what he is, and I think that's what VanVleet was when he first came into the league. But he was converting, and so I think Tyrese Maxey, I had him going 15 to the Magic.
Okay.
But I think that he is a good fit there with the T-Wolves. I think that he could play either behind or with D'Lo. So
yeah,
I think it's a good pick.
I think compared to the other guards on the board, this is probably the best one that I would want over someone like Cole Anthony or RJ Hampton. So
yeah,
I would agree. And now I am very excited as the Dallas Mavericks are on the clock. I'm very excited to see where you go with this, Mitch. Don't mess this up. That's all I have to say.
I think you're going to be happy with my choice. So, the Mavericks, if there's anything I know about them, is that they love to shoot three-pointers.
We do.
I know where this is going.
We are the fun
I know
Rockets.
where this is going.
My man is not going to have to travel far for his professional team.
Boy.
Good old Desmond Bain out of TCU.
Go
Frogs.
I had him next to the Nets. This is funny.
Did you have him next
I
to
had
this?
him next to the Nets.
The Nets would be a really good fit
That's
for
what I
him,
was thinking
actually.
too. We can
But
talk
the
about
Mavericks are
Zach.
better, so don't take this away from me.
No, I love Desmond Bain. We've been watching him for the last 4 years. I've gotten to play against him in rec ball and stuff like that. He obviously just destroys us because he's an NBA caliber player, but he's really big, thick, strong. He doesn't move laterally all that well, so I'm a little worried.
He does not.
I'm a little worried about his perimeter defense prospects, but he still is a strong guy that's
He's a
going to
big
be able
boy.
to push you around a little bit.
Thick
He
with
has
3
He has a
C's.
good season there.
And he has a bit of a funky shot, but as we've seen over the last 4 years at TCU, the ball goes in.
That's all
Yeah,
that
He
matters.
was a 44% three-point shooter.
When he's on, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And he's got the clutch gene. That
Yeah.
guy has made so many big shots throughout his
He
career.
won us the Baylor game on his own.
He did. He won us a lot
Number
of
2
games
Baylor
on his
game,
own.
yeah.
He is definitely a guy who isn't afraid to take the last shot, isn't afraid to miss the last shot, because in order to take the last shot, you have to be brave enough to miss it. But he's definitely a guy who can just shoot the lights out of the gym. And I would love so much for him to come to the Mavericks. He is a guy that I would love to pair next to Luka. He might not start for us, but he would definitely come off the bench, and he's an NBA ready player now.
Yeah. I mean, he's a senior. He's battle tested. He's been through a lot of different adversity at TCU. And hot take, if you guys do happen to lose Tim Hardaway Jr., he could step into a starting role. I
would
believe
agree.
it.
I think he could. I don't know if he would, just because Carlisle is kind of like Terry Stotts, who kind of came from the same line, and they don't like necessarily playing rookies, let alone starting them, unless they're Luka Doncic. But moving on though, you admitted, Tom, that Mitch stole your pick here
I
for
did.
the Nets,
He did.
who now we are now at 19. Wow, we were getting through this. Where are you going at 19?
So Brooklyn's funny because we finally get to see what they are next year with Durant back. They'll have Kyrie. They'll probably trade away from having their finalized roster. So it'll be interesting to see on draft night if that's the night where they try and shake it up. But if they actually do keep this pick, I'd probably go with Tyrell Terry from Stanford. He has been a guy who has been jumping up all kinds of boards recently. He was sort of quiet and sort of, I don't know if unknown's the right word, but he's definitely gotten the hype in the last couple of weeks here from the media and everything. He can shoot the ball, and that's just, I think that will be something that the Nets could need next year if they lose, whether it's Harris or LeVert or someone else. He can come in and try and at least shoot some more threes. He can probably come in for Kyrie there off the bench and take some minutes as well. He's probably just the right personality too. He's sort of known for being quieter, high basketball IQ. He's not going to piss off Kyrie and Durant, which is probably the most important thing that this pick has to do next year. So I think that I think this would be a great fit for Terry here at 19 for the Nets.
And if you're playing for Steve Nash, and then who is his coach again?
D'Antoni.
D'Antoni.
Thank you.
And Amari. Don't
If
forget
you're
Amari.
playing for the 7-second Suns, who now decided to all coach together, you better be able to shoot some damn threes.
He can pop off.
They're gonna chuck
He'll
it.
pop off.
I'm willing to bet that they're going to break the record for most three-pointers taken, which is hard to do, being that the Rockets are beating themselves every single year. But I think Terry is a very good pick here. They could use a backup guard because Dinwiddie can kind of do the combo guard off the bench or start next to Kyrie.
Or leave.
Or leave. Terry definitely does fit pretty well. He's a 40% three-point shooter out of Stanford. Like you said, he's a smart kid. He's a quiet kid, and he's not going to ruffle a lot of feathers, which is a very key part
That's
to
the
that
dream right now.
whole environment that the Nets are
Which
putting
is
together
delicate.
right now. Very delicate.
to
That's pretty
say
nicely.
the least.
Yeah.
Yes.
But moving on here, the Miami Heat are on the clock at 20. They finished 5th in the East, but went on quite the run in the playoffs. They definitely have a championship caliber roster. They are definitely a piece away from being able to run the East, in my opinion. That piece could be Giannis. That piece could be anybody, but they are definitely in the Giannis hunt. What pick here fits their current situation where they're going for a run, but also fits their future because they definitely have a lot of young talent?
So I'm audibling a little bit from what I did have before. A guy who I thought was going to get drafted higher has dropped, and that is Jaden McDaniels. out of Washington.
Okay, I had him later. Okay.
Yeah, so Jaden McDaniels out of Washington, 6'10", long. I think that he projects as a very good defender, almost Jonathan Isaac-like, where he's just like long and athletic, and he plays that 3-4, potentially 5 if you want to do small ball 5. And then he also shoots a high clip from 3. The one thing that worries me about Jaden McDaniels is that a lot has come out about his character issues when he was at Washington, but he don't really like come across as like worrying about character issues as much as they love athletes and they love guys that can shoot threes. He's a bit of a
Wow.
dick. The guy's a bit of a
there.
dick. He is. And that was pretty clear with like coming out of the locker room in Washington. And that was like, I think that that's a reason why he's not a lottery pick. I think that he has lottery talent, but he has attitude issues. I think if he goes to Miami where they already have a good culture, have a very true, genuine leader in Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and Jimmy Butler, he comes in as a rookie. He may not even play that much because KZ Opala didn't play that much this year. But he can come in, he can learn a lot, and he could probably provide a lot of things that the Heat really value, which is like versatility.
Yeah, he's one of, and the draft every year has one of these guys where it's like you have the talent, you have the ability, you have the size, you have it all. You're just immature and you're just not necessarily ready for the NBA. Whether it's you think you're too good, you're not willing to learn. Every year there's this guy who has everything put together except the mental aspect of the game, and it's hit or miss whether or not these guys pan out. You know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But this is this year's guy. This is this year's. Could be amazing if you could just shut the fuck up.
If you could just get through to him. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you, but that's my pick there for the Heat because of all the versatility that he brings for them. I did pivot off of somebody for them too.
You did.
Oh,
I did.
Interesting.
Later reveal.
I did.
Interesting.
All right.
I'll reveal later.
He was supposed to be a stud, and he wasn't quite a stud, and I think character things was like part of it too. Watching his tape, he definitely has sort of like the athletic gifts you want. He just sort of needs to put it all together. I think Miami's probably a place that can help him try and find his potential. So it'll just be interesting to see how that plays out the next couple of years. So
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what we're going to do next.
We have a very interesting team on the clock here, and that is a team that has changed head coach. They've changed GMs. They still have the same 2 stars, but one of them could be on the move. We don't know. And that's the Philadelphia 76ers. They finished 6th in the East with a 43-30 record, which some would say is kind of a disappointment, and their playoff performance definitely was a disappointment. Their starting 5 is good, but awkwardly fit. They have some good players. They have some bloated contracts. What could they bring in here at pick 21 that could help them?
So it's the first pick of the Daryl Morey era, and I think that if Bane is still here, he'll be pumped to have Bane here. But with how our draft
He's not. He's a maverick.
with how our draft has played out, I will go with a different wing. I will go Josh Green from Arizona. I think this is the exact kind of guy that Daryl wants to bring in. He's a 3-and-D, great shooter from downtown, a solid defender on and off the ball. This is the kind of guy that Daryl wants to bring in that fits sort of a rocket ball or whatever the hell he was trying to do in Houston. I think that he brings depth at the wing where they kind of need because it's GR3. It's GR3 Glenn Robinson III, who's not someone you should probably try and keep around for too long, and then Furkan Korkmaz. So I think that Josh Green can sort of come in as a backup role for 3-and-D and try and get some minutes for the Sixers here as they try and sort of, I guess, revamp their roster and this new Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey kind of run here for the future.
I think that's a really good pick for them. I actually had Tyrell Terry. If you
Okay.
didn't pick him earlier, I think that right now, yeah, they're looking for bench pieces that can shoot.
Yeah.
Because those are the 2 things that they're really missing. I mean, I think Tybal is a good piece off the bench, but outside of that, they're really
He's
trying
not a great
to
shooter either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's not that good of a shooter. So you're really searching for shooters and for bench pieces. I think that Josh Green definitely fits both of those aspects. I think that he is a guy that, almost like Josh Richardson, can come in, plug and play, and be a guy that like naturally fits in that awkwardly fit team that they have put together right now.
He's definitely a guy who adds shooting. He's definitely a guy who adds a bit of athleticism. He's definitely a guy who can like help, but their contract situation is just so weird in Philly that I don't know.
They need to get this pick right, whatever
Yes,
it is.
Yes, and I don't know if pick 21's enough to help them. Like they need to add a guy that they can like move a big contract.
Well,
they
so
need
they
to bring
got-
in a cheap guy who can help.
Well, because they
if that
had
makes sense.
Thibault kind of with the same kind of pick last year, so they need to make sure that they get this right.
Yes,
So we'll see.
Absolutely. Moving on to producer Jay's favorite team, the Denver Nuggets. Those of you who watched episode 1 know and love our producer Jay. They got this pick via Houston. They finished third in the West, probably one of the best and most exciting teams of the bubble. Down 3-1 twice and won both times. First time ever. Their starting five is good. I mean, not good, great. But they have some holes there with Gary Harris and Paul Millsap. Gary Harris being a prime trade candidate and Paul Millsap being a free agent. Mitch, how do you have them fill in those holes?
So I'm a little thrown off. I was going to give them Josh Green.
Yeah.
But I think that they're a team that has plenty of talent up and down the roster, and they can take the risk of going for someone that's a bit of a boom or bust candidate. So I am going to have them take R.J. Hampton.
That's what I have, which is funny.
Really? You got R.J. Hampton?
R.J. Hampton here. This is a classic Nuggets pick.
It's like the Nuggets, they've been going for high potential picks a lot over the last several years, and sometimes they're going to pan out and sometimes they're not. I think that this is the kind of guy that you can bring in and he can play on the ball, he can play off the ball. He showed that he can be a part of a professional organization with no real personality issues by going and playing for the New Zealand Breakers this last year instead of going to college. I think that he does have a good head on his shoulders. I think that he'd be willing to come into the Nuggets and get developed. Yeah. Maybe play a little bit in the G League, and the Nuggets can bring him in a year or two. I think that's kind of the Nuggets' MO.
We talked about this last time too about guys whose stock has been hurt last year. R.J. Hampton's stock has nosedived.
Yeah,
he has gotten screwed the last year.
He was supposed to be a top 5, maybe even top 3
I wanted to go to Duke last summer, and then he didn't. And now I'm kind of glad he didn't go to Duke from what we have seen from his numbers and everything. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes to a team like the Nuggets, who are known for developing guys, what the next step would be for him. He's
one of those guys where he has all the intangibles, he has all the skill, he's just undersized, and it's tough when you're undersized.
And from all the stuff that I've read about him, it's always he can do this, he could do this, he has this upside, but he hasn't it's not established yet. So he's just so raw, we have no idea what his final product will be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, so let's take a break here. We're on pick 23. Utah Jazz are coming up next, but let's get back into this Bird Dog whiskey here. Let's see what we're talking about here.
All right, so I've been tasting it for a little bit now. I'm about 2 or 3 glasses in. Hard to count. I am very much enjoying it. I'm getting a little bit of spice on the front end, but it's definitely got a caramel flavor, and it definitely is it's very easy to put down. I think that it's really smooth. I don't think that it's overwhelming with sugar, but it's also definitely not on the really harsh side.
It's definitely not harsh. I like the taste of it. It's more bitey than I like. Not that I'd like, but it looks, when you look at it, it's so
light,
dark.
Yeah.
It's light looking. It's amber almost.
Yeah.
So when I sip it, it's it should be go down easily, and it does, but it's got more of a bite to it than I thought it would.
I think it's that little bit of spice there at the end.
So if you had 5 ice cubes, would be better? Or worse?
No.
Should we add more ice cubes? Is that what the problem is?
So full disclosure, I haven't tried this yet, so we're getting a live response.
Haven't even got
He's
to it.
still working his way through his other 2 alcohols before we get here.
All right, to the Bird Dog.
The Bird Dog. I like it. I don't know what to say. My ice cubes are all gone also, if that matters at all.
Hey, it's nice and diluted.
Yeah.
It's definitely flavorful. It's definitely different than every other whiskey that we've had on the podcast so far. I would say that this one's not the toughest to drink, but definitely got the most bite to it of anything we've had.
I don't think it has a whole ton of flavor. It's not a really powerful flavor right at the front.
Yeah.
When you're sipping it, and then it has a little harsh spice there at the end. But
it's different from the Four Roses, and the only reason I'm comparing it is because that's the last thing that
we just had.
On the podcast, not the last thing we've drank, period, but the last thing we've had on the podcast. And the Four Roses one, you drink it and it was just flavor in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then this one, it's more of a smooth. You just get hit with this smooth, easygoing, and then once you swallow it, you get hit with this spice at the back.
Yeah. No, it's definitely different than Four Roses, where it's just a nice vanilla sugary flavor and kind of goes down smooth.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it went down pretty smooth. I thought when Ethan first said that, it sort of scared me with his first comments, oh, it didn't get out super smooth. But then I had it, and I was okay, it wasn't as, or it wasn't like that high. I don't know.
Are you a big whiskey drinker in general? Is that your?
I like to at my house, but there's sort of just some some Jack Daniels like off flavors. They aren't anything like super out there.
Ah, nice.
He's like me.
I'm a basic whiskey bitch.
Hey, we don't have a ton of hair on our chest. The stubble's there.
Yeah,
Okay,
we got something at
the
least.
stubble is
You're
there.
starting to grow.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back into our mock draft here. We are on pick 23. We are on the Utah Jazz. Tom, you are on the clock. What do you got going on?
So I'm feeling pretty confident that Mitch does not have this pick for the Jazz. This will definitely show a part of my bias for the listeners out there. I love Duke basketball. I was born and raised cheering for Duke basketball. My mom went there, and she just sort of forced this into me. So I've watched so much Duke basketball in my life, and I think sort of thinking about what I saw out of the Jazz in the playoffs and sort of thinking about Vernon Carey Jr., who's on the board here, I think this is an awesome fit for the Jazz. He's 6'10", 270. He was the entire Duke offense last year. Duke played so much through him that I think this is a great option for the Jazz off the bench. He can provide more scoring sort of in the post area that they've been sort of lacking. I mean, like, Gobert can do a little bit, but it's not quite, enough. I think that he can definitely give them a little bit more oomph on offense there. He's sort of a project on defense. He's kind of slow. His vertical isn't great, but I think he can definitely improve there. I think maybe being behind Gobert and Tony Bradley could help him out a little bit. But I think he's definitely can learn from them and just give them a little bit more oomph there on offense. So yeah, I know it's a little
Little high.
out of the blue there. Yeah, a little high maybe. I've seen I've seen him from 25 to 45, and this is 23. I think this is just from a team fit. This is probably one of the top 5 what I would think fits for him personally.
So by doing that, are you thinking that maybe the Jazz start moving on from Gobert and start moving into a more offensive focus with Vernon Carey at their center, or are you really think that he's like a backup center? That's what he projects as?
I think backup center too, and the Jazz have a pretty decent bench right now with Clarkson, Ingles, and Georges Niang and all those guys. They don't need a wing, and there's not a clear center in my mind who would take at this point. So they're sort of in a weird spot too. If I was them,
so if they bring in Vernon Carey, are you thinking that this might be a way out for Gobert?
No, probably not. I don't think Vernon Carey has that much talent right now. I think Gobert will start the season there. I just think that this offseason is so chaotic. There's enough time to really explore the full market for him. And I'm sure we'll get into this at a later point, but the chaos that will ensue the next couple weeks here will be incredible. And I don't think that I think Gobert's probably there for the time being. I think that they'll sort of see what they would have in Carey first before they would ever try and look somewhere else for Gobert or something else like that as well. I also think too that if the board plays out like it has in our draft, I think the Jazz would try and trade back because there's no great option for them at this point, which is why I went with Carey also. I just thought that Carey's a good fit for what they're trying to do, even if it is kind of a reach from other wings and forwards and centers that were around at this point. I didn't see a clear match for what their roster currently has. And I thought that Vernon Carey was sort of the best fit for what this team could improve on and what they already have with it. So,
going off what you were saying earlier, the next 10 days for the NBA is going to be insane.
It's going to be awesome, but also
there's going to be
anarchy.
It's going to be one of those things where I'm going to need an Excel document with just what is happening and just don't update it. I need to be able to scroll back and be oh yeah, he signed with him, or oh yeah, they traded him with him. It's going to be absolute chaos. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be crazy. We're going to keep you updated as best we can on the pod. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
For those of you who like basketball, who also like alcohol, this is your spot to be to get your NBA knowledge. Let me tell you. Moving on from the Jazz, who apparently reached on a big man here, we're going to Milwaukee, who got this pick via Indiana. They finished first in the East with an NBA best 56-17 record. They underperformed redonkulously in the playoffs because they lost in the second round yet again. Milwaukee is in the let's do anything we can to keep Giannis from leaving mode. But is it too little too late? And does this pick have a chance to change the tides, Mitch?
It's not too little too late. And this pick has nothing to do with whether he's going to leave or not.
Yes, Chris Paul's not available here, so they cannot draft Chris Paul in this pick.
So I am also probably going to be reaching on my pick, and it's going to be a big guy. I'm going with Killian Tilly, who is the big man out of Gonzaga. He's a senior. He is battle tested, and he is one of the better shooting big men out of the entire class. Which I have heard rumors that the the Bucks may be moving away from a lot of their bigger centers, the Robin Lopez, Brooke Lopez, and actually moving towards having Giannis as their full-time point guard center. They're like 1-5.
Going complete small ball.
Complete small ball, and small ball is in your 7-footers actually playing center. But Killian Tilly would, if they drafted him, he would come in and immediately have an impact, and he's going to make threes, and he's going to have like a real contribution to your team and fit well next to a guy like Giannis. Again, this pick's not like the most sexy pick in the world, but I think that it makes the most sense for the Bucks.
Does he start day one?
No,
No.
but he's a good bench player though. He's definitely a good bench player, and it also kind of depends whether they decide to move on from Brooke and how well a guy like Killian comes in and plays like right off the bat. Maybe he fits perfectly well next to Giannis. But I think he's a guy that, as a rookie, can come in and play off the bench and give you really valuable minutes.
So I had him as someone who I was going to sort of say, like, hey, like, look out for this guy later on in the draft. We don't really know what, like, range he'll be in at this point. He's been someone who sort of got screwed by injuries his last 2 years of college. He was supposed to be just, like, the stud, and he was really good at Gonzaga, but just he had, like, a knee thing, he had, like, an ankle thing that always sort of kept him back from, I think, sort of showing everyone his like full potential. So it'll be interesting to see with this COVID process how much he's like able to show how healthy he is to teams and just sort of the progress he's made the past few months here. So
yeah, high IQ guy,
yeah,
high character guy, good shooter, just not
classic Gonzaga guy.
Classic
Literally
Gonzaga.
word for word.
Ballpark
Right on
classic
Gonzaga guy. I mean,
God.
he sounds a lot like Zach Collins. He sounds a lot like Zach Collins, who's on the Blazers. A stretch 4, stretch 5, good defender, smart player, not overly athletic, and just isn't someone you want in your starting lineup, but someone that could really fill out a bench and be a great in a backup big role.
Definitely fatter than Zach Collins.
I think like last time too, when we were talking about guys who've been screwed over the past couple of months, if he, like we had said for Toppin last time, that if he could show what he could do in March Madness, it'd be a different story. I think the same thing with him right now too.
He sounds like a classic guy where come March Madness he raises his draft stock a lot.
Like most Gonzaga players.
Well, it's one of those guys where like he could literally just go off and shoot ridiculous from 3 and be like, oh wait, he could be a late lottery pick all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think his projection is late first and like early to mid second for most. I only take him because of the fit that he has with the Bucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on here to the team that probably overachieved the most in the NBA last year. They had less than a 1% chance to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year. That is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They ended up finishing 5th in the West with a 44-28 record. They are open that they are going to be going in a different route this year. They have gotten rid of their head coach, Billy Donovan. They have gotten rid of, or they haven't gotten rid of yet, but they're going to get rid of Chris Paul. They're going to probably let Danilo Gallinari walk. They don't have a ton of cap space. There's a ton of question marks here with Oklahoma City. This is their first pick in the draft. Where did they go, Tom?
Well, first off, most importantly, their biggest problem is that their assistant GM went to the Pistons as the new GM. So I think their scouting department might have some problems now. But so the pick I'm going to make, I personally don't love this guy, but from what I've been seeing in the media, especially Kevin O'Connor with The Ringer, this is the pick that the Thunder want to make here. And I will for sure botch this guy's name. Alexei Pukevsky?
Okay, so
from Serbia.
Yes, it's...
How is that? Was that not...
Alexei Pokazevsky.
Okay.
Pokazevsky.
Yes.
Can I call him Alex? I don't know what to call him.
Alex.
We're going to call him Alex. Alex from Serbia.
From Serbia.
Alexis with a J.
Alex with a J. But his vitals terrify me. He is 7 feet tall, but his weight ranges from, depending on the source, from like 185 to like 205. So I pretty much weigh the same much as this guy does, but he's a foot taller than me, which I don't love. I was listening to some different podcasts today, and they were saying that like if you watch his film, it's kind of like you're watching like a bunch of middle schoolers in a gym where you just can't tell. I think it was like they were saying that it's the same problem Giannis had, where you just like you cannot tell at all like what this guy can do with the competition he's playing. I think it's the same problem that I just 7 foot 190 terrifies me. I mean, I have bad shoulders, but I feel bad for this guy. I mean, like any center he faces would kill him. I think he has to spend at least a year in the G League. I mean, they have Steven, so like, as of right now, the Thunder still have like Adams and Noel that can sort of be the centers. Maybe they're just sort of gonna like stash him away or put him in the G League. But I mean, if they want him like that badly, good for them. But I don't see it a whole lot. But I don't know.
We are reaching the point in the draft where teams are going to start stashing players. They're going to start. This is the
especially Boston here next couple of picks.
They're going to be start burying players in
Yeah.
the G League. They're going to be start letting people like not necessarily let people walk, but let people like these are guys that aren't going to contribute next year.
Yeah.
And this is a classic guy where like even his percentages and his like numbers weren't that. He didn't even average 10 points a game in the
Serbian B League.
Yeah, the Serbian B League where he played. Like he is skin and bones, but he is tall. If you look at his tape, he has a great turnaround, like shot game. But you also look at his tape, and he's like, well, he's a foot taller than everyone else he's playing against. So it's kind of hard. Like his tape's good, but you also look at this competition, and it's like, I mean, you give me that type of size, I feel like anyone could score there.
Yeah.
So Alex is from Serbia. He played in the same league that Giannis did, which is the Greek second team or a second league. So he played for Olympiacos B, where I'm pretty sure Giannis played for Panathinaikos. And he's 7 feet tall. He is all skin and bones. He has no strength on him.
We're looking at a picture of him right now, and I'm like, dear God, that guy's skinny.
He's skinny. And
Like, there's no one he can guard in the NBA right now. If he like went on court tomorrow, you can put him on no one out there.
no. But how many guys are out there on an NBA court right now that can shoot threes and are tall and cannot touch people? I mean, you got guys like Bertans. I think that his absolute max is a guy kind of like a Jaren Jackson or kind of like a Kristaps, where he's a 7-footer that can block shots, but mainly is out there to shoot threes. And that is what you're hoping you get. Kevin O'Connor is very, very high on this guy.
He is.
He's watched more tape on him than I have.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not super sold on him quite yet. I think that's more likely he turns out to be a Dragan Bender than
That's the main comp I've seen for him,
than a
which is
Kristaps
not-
Porzingis. It's
not
not a
what you wanna
good.
see,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not what you want to see. If you do have him stay overseas for a year, maybe he gets a little bit more weight on. Maybe he gets a little bit more
Just feed
better
him more.
stats.
Just to give him something to give him.
I mean,
a few more
the
pounds.
good news is, if you are a fan of this guy, is that he is young.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
very young. He is, I don't even think 20 years old yet.
There's no way. Yeah.
And so he definitely could hit he definitely could hit another spurt where he puts some weight on.
He's 18, so he's,
Yeah. So he could definitely put some weight on. He could definitely fill out a little bit. But it's like, right now, you look at him like you could put a point guard on him and that guy could bully him and post him up. Like, he might not be able to shoot over him, but that guy could push him around in the paint. Like, he needs to have some oomph behind him for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say that is in his advantage is he has very good handles for a guy that's 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
that's why
that's fair.
it's one of those things where it's like Kristaps, he does that little crossover over to the elbow and then pulls up, or that long two that he likes to do. Alex has that exact same thing.
I mean, yes, Alexis
Pokazevsky.
Pokazevsky. It's hard to say when you're 3 whiskeys deep.
It is
like
Alexis Pokazevsky.
I feel like we can be dead sober and it'd be just as hard, to be honest. No offense to this guy. He seems like a perfectly nice guy.
We love you, Alexis Pokazevsky.
I wish you the best. I mean,
but
I hope you're the next, I don't know.
next time we're
superstar.
not 2/3 of a whiskey bottle deep.
Yeah.
We'll try to say your name much better. Moving on here, we're going to go to the Boston Celtics, who have yet another first-round pick. I don't understand it. Every year, the Boston Celtics have like
I do think this is
2 or
last
3
year. I think this is the final year of.
first-round picks.
Like, are there Nets picks in here still?
This one, 26 is their own. So this is the pick they
'Cause
actually
they have
own.
32, so that's from.
The 30th pick is from Milwaukee.
30th
Okay.
is the
I
Milwaukee.
got
Which
that
one was
from
that?
Milwaukee.
How do they do that?
I don't know
It's
how
fine.
they got
It's-
that one.
Okay.
But the 26 is their own pick, and again, they finished 3rd in the East. They have a good starting 5. They have holes at center. They have 0 cap space unless, for some unbeknownst reason, Gordon Hayward opts out, and then
He
they
won't.
might have like a couple $1 million. They have no cap space.
No.
So they're building through the draft. We all know that they're going to make a trade because, like,
have to make a trade.
mathematically, they do not have enough spots on their roster for all the draft picks they have. That being said, if they somehow end up at 26, where are they going?
So I do like the Pokusevski pick for the Celtics at some point. If it's a guy that they could like stash.
That's a stash guy for sure.
Yeah, a guy they could stash and then bring back like a year or two later. But he's gone. So he's gone at this point. The person that I have the Celtics taking is Jamius Ramsey.
Oh.
And Jamius Ramsey, so he comes out of Texas Tech. He's a freshman and he is a scorer. He's a guy that you bring off your bench, and you know, they did take Romeo Langford last year to have a similar type of role. But this guy Ramsey plays a little bit more point guard, shooting guard, as opposed to shooting guard, small forward. And you need to have someone coming off your bench that's not Brad Wanamaker if you're the Celtics. You want.
He's also a free agent. He is their only free agent this year, so he could definitely leave them. They might have bird rights / he might be restricted, but if they could replace him on the cheap, why not?
Yeah. So I like Jamie Ramsey a lot. He has a good like sidestep and like fadeaway three that he kind of likes to go with, and he potentially is a good like man-to-man defender, so he can like do both sides. He's a guy that you bring in that you hope can like make a contribution in the beginning, but you're not really expecting that much. I mean, we're at pick 26 right now. There's a couple other guys that I think could be boom or bust candidates or like high volume scorers, but he's the one that I like the best right now.
For Boston in this scenario too, it will be interesting to see if Wanamaker leaves. They do have Carson Edwards, who they got sort of in the same boat as this last year, and it'll be interesting to see how much faith they have in him, or would they want to go for someone like Ramsey or someone else as well.
So we're moving on to the New York Knicks, who have this pick via the Clippers. The Knicks are terrible. No other way to put it. We talked about them last podcast. We said they're the lovable losers, but not really. They're the hateable losers. They're just bad and don't really have much of a future right now. So any positions up for grabs? Where are we going?
So I'm very excited for what I'm about to do here, Mitch. We have created chaos in a way that I think will be absolutely hilarious if this pans out on draft night. But do you know who's still available right now for the Knicks?
Do you want me to guess?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Cole Anthony.
Yep. I'm so excited that he has fallen to the Knicks. This is so perfect in every way. This is so funny to me that he is still on the board for the Knicks. If he is their 28, they will not waste any seconds turning in their card to the commissioner. His name will be on it because they need guards, and they will give him every chance. He can shoot as many shots as he wants on the Knicks. This is a big name guy. This would be so funny. I would love every second of this. I watched, I'm being a Duke fan. I would watch him with just pure hatred a lot last year. And before his injury, I mean, when he was on, he was cooking. But like after his injury, he looked pretty bad. And he's been a guy too that his stock has fallen. Like he was supposed to be top 5, and now he's 27 to us.
Yeah.
I mean, he has taken a big nosedive the last year. The Knicks is a fun spot for him here. I think he will get minutes. He will get a lot of shots up. We'll see if that's a good thing or a bad thing for him. I don't know. But this is I would love this on draft night. I don't know the odds of this happening or not. Probably not very high, but this would be quite the story if this happened for us on draft night.
He might start on day 1.
Well, so hold on. We had Halliburton going.
We have Halliburton going.
8 to him.
You're right. But they could start both of them. Honestly,
gonna say hot take. They take both these guys.
So do they bench?
They start both of them.
So who do they? They don't have anyone that could start.
So you take down Harkless, you put Bayard at the 3 is what I was assuming you would do.
You're gonna do.
Okay.
So your starting 5 would be Cole Anthony, Halliburton,
RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Robinson. Wow.
I kind of like it.
That'd be kind of funny.
I kind of like it.
That's a train wreck that I would watch on NBA
League
team
Pass?
twice a week. Yeah, on
That'd
League
be a good
Pass.
League
Okay,
Pass.
That's
remember-
about League Pass to get their ass
You
kicked
remember
twice
these
a week.
old American Idols that you just tune in to watch Simon Cowell just rip people? I would do that just to watch opposing defenses just rip people.
I would love to see Kemba Walker just put Cole Anthony in the blender twice next season.
Oh, dude.
An absolute mess here at 27.
His defense is also why his stock has dropped, because he is a terrible defender, and seeing Kemba or Kyle Lowry or those other teams or Kyrie Irving just torch him and the division there. That'd be so funny, just seeing him try and guard these people and just get absolutely cooked.
The Knicks have the worst future in the NBA.
The Stones are down there. The
Stones are bad, and I know you.
And
You
so
love
is
your
Cleveland.
Stones,
And so is Cleveland.
is bad. But Cleveland at least has trade assets, and so do the Stones. You look at the Knicks roster, like they can't even trade for anybody if they want.
They've been trying to trade Frank Ntilikina for like 2 years now, and just no one wants any part of him.
All right, so Mitch, we're moving on. The Lakers are on the clock. You have to pick someone here. I want you to know. Mitch hates the Lakers with every inch of his being, and it's a lot of being because he's a tall guy. But you got to pick someone here for the Lakers. Who you going with? And you can't just pick like a rock. Okay.
Can I trade LeBron for a future second? Is that a thing? You're right. No
cash
one
it.
would take him.
Just
You're
cash.
right. Okay, so unfortunately, I think I'm going to pick a guy for the Lakers who I consider to be a sleeper, and I think he's going to turn out to be a good NBA player, and that guy is Robert Woodard II out of Mississippi State. 6'7" guy, 7'1" wingspan, already in college played more of a role player, averaged only like 11.5 points and like 6.5 rebounds, but he was a 43% three-point shooter, 55% effective field goal percentage, and he's one of those guys that you bring into your team and just plays well. He's going to play really good defense. He's a big, athletic. He can slash, and he can also spot up from three. I really don't want the Lakers to make a good pick here at 28, but if I were the Lakers GM, I would be taking Robert Woodard.
He's just a role guy. I mean, like, he's a glue guy. He's one of those guys where it's just like he fits. He doesn't do anything necessarily bad. He might not be the best passer, but he can shoot the three. And like on the Lakers, if you have LeBron and Anthony Davis and Rajon Rondo, like they have to kick out to somebody, and he could be that somebody.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good handle, and he lacks a little bit of quickness, but I think that he pretty much does exactly what Markieff Morris did last year, and you bring him in on a rookie scale contract.
He plays decent defense as well.
Yeah. He does play good defense, especially like down near the rim. And with a lot of like 3-4s in the NBA, he'll be able to keep up with them. If he's getting switched onto 1s and 2s, that's when he's in trouble. But overall, yeah, he's a glue guy, and that's exactly what the Lakers are looking for, glue guys.
And if the Lakers do, as they try and hunt for a third star, like we've been hearing in the news, and Kuzma's part of the package, they will need some kind of like forward depth, and that would be something that he could bring off the bench as well.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, a great pick for them.
Moving on, we're getting down to the very bitter end here, but at pick 29, Toronto is on the clock. I love Toronto personally, but
Great city. I love the city.
I love the team too, but I also think that like the whole team is up for a revamp. They have a lot of older guys. They have Van Vliet, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, a lot of their like big names, big faces up in free agency this year. I'm not sure how many of them they could keep. Who do they bring in here at number 29?
So, I'm staring at the roster right now, and they could. I'd probably go point guard here, or someone just like some kind of guard they could bring in if they lose someone like Van Fleet. Guys that I would consider are like the Trey Joneses, the Malachi Flynns. But I'll probably go from France. Oh God, Theo Maledon.
Mitch is over here on his
Maledon?
computer circling his name.
I
in front of me.
knew you were going to Theo Maledon.
So I was down between him and of course my love for Trey Jones had him here too. I think at the end of the day, to try and become more unbiased, I went with Theo Maledon here. Good
I think
defender.
that was the right pick.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
I do too, probably.
I'm a big Theo Maledon guy.
But yeah, I think he's been someone too that's been someone. I think this is kind of a little later than a lot of people have him. I think 29. I think the Raptors would be pretty pumped to get him here.
I have like if I were to pick like if Bane and I also love Sadiq Bey, like if those guys weren't there at 18 for the Mavs, I'm a big Theo Maledon believer. So I would agree with you.
So I think he's a pretty solid defender. A good shooter, which is just something that if you can get at 29 and if you can get some minutes out of him, that's all you can sort of ask for at this point. Good size, 6'4", solid wingspan. This is the kind of guy you want here. I think that he could probably get some minutes if Van Fleet ends up leaving. And I think that Toronto would be pretty pumped to have him here. And that's all I sort of have on him, I guess, honestly.
No, I totally agree. I like Theo Maledon a lot. He's long. I mean, he's 6'4" with almost a 6'9" wingspan. Yeah. It's hard to say like with numbers from overseas, right? So he only averaged like 7.3 points. But his free throw percentage is about 78, which is good, not great, and his effective field goal percentage is 50%, which is higher than most players is. So I like a guy like him to come in, play a little point, little shooting guard, and even in today's NBA, a guy who's 6'4" could play a little small forward.
Okay.
So I love a Theo Maledon. I think that he also fits kind of that style that the Raptors really like, which is kind of like coming from overseas, and he probably has a good relationship with Masai Ujiri because he seems to have a good relationship with everybody.
Overseas.
Yeah, especially overseas. And I could totally see them bringing in a guy like Maledon here late in the first. He slipped down to him, and it feels natural for them to just take him.
The Celtics have the last pick in the draft, and they have already picked twice, which we know they won't.
Yeah.
They probably won't make this pick, but for the last pick of our mock draft, where are we going?
So let's say, in theory, that they did keep all these picks and that they are taking this last pick. I think that their pick is going to be Leandro Bolmaro out of Barcelona. He's an Argentinian guy, and he's a tall guy. He's 6'7". He's a distributor. He likes to play point guard. I would consider him to be very close to like an Evan Turner type player who the Celtics at one point in time used very well
And loved.
Yeah, he was beloved there until the Trailblazers decided to pay him $17 million a year and pried him away from the Celtics.
Still paying him.
But I think Bolmaro is the type of guy that fits really well with the Celtics. He could be a draft and stash guy. Let him play another year in Barcelona. Even if he doesn't, he comes in as your fourth or fifth wing. And he may not be the greatest shooter. He only shot 27% from three, and that's Euro 3, so that's like shorter than the NBA 3. But he's a great distributor, and he's a really good athlete.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of like fits the bill of a guy that can stash for a while. Like, if, let's say, the Celtics end up making all these picks, they want guys that they can stash overseas to when they need them. And so they're going to definitely be taking players that are playing overseas where they can fit later, because right now their roster is kind of not necessarily set, but
it's an influx.
I mean, they're definitely in a situation where they're looking for boom or bust guys that can just make a big impact right now.
Yeah.
You know, they don't necessarily need those projects where they can like wait and like stash them in the G League. They want guys that like can help them win now, because their players are all young, but they can all win in the East right now. They've shown that.
This is their window, and they just need to take as many like good flyers as they can.
Exactly. They need to like take a pick and hope that they can help them win now, and if not, no big deal. They're good anyways.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Well, guys, that wraps up our mock draft. That is going to be happening in a couple of days here on Wednesday. We are very excited for it. We will definitely have a reaction podcast out to you guys day of. We're excited to have it. And yeah, here we go. Another podcast down, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for joining us again. Thank you, Tom, for joining us yet again.
I hope I didn't embarrass you guys too much on this podcast.
Absolutely not. We love having you. We'll have you definitely on again. Shout out to Bird Dog Whiskey for being here with us this podcast. But
Thanks, Bird Dog.
Thanks, Bird Dog, for getting us drunk enough to talk podcasts and talk mock drafts. Tom is officially done with his wine and his beer. He will be moving on to the Bird Dog after this. And cheers, brothers. We've got through another one.
Cheers.